Good morning and welcome to Developing Stories. My name is Odunayo Sawyer. The Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, retired Brigadier General Mohammed Buba Marwa, has disclosed that about 15 million Nigerians aged 15 to 64 are using illicit drugs, nearly 3 times the global average. Marwa shared the statistics during a courtesy visit to Ondo State Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa at the governor's office in Akure. He presented detailed data on drug use prevalence, enforcement successes, and cannabis production nationwide, with a special focus on Ondo State drawing from the 2018 United Nations Drug Use Survey. Government House correspondent Wahab Bankole has details.
The delegation from the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, was led by Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, retired Brigadier General Mohammed Marwa, to strategize on curbing illicit drug use, trafficking, and to launch the agency's Alternative Development Program in Ondo State. Marwa explained that NDLEA established an Alternative Development Unit at its headquarters to go beyond law enforcement, but engage cannabis growing communities by encouraging them to shift from illegal cultivation to legal crops through community development initiatives. Key components include providing farm inputs, building infrastructure, schools and clinics, plus ensuring access to markets for sustainable livelihoods. Ondo State was selected for the program's pilot after a year of consultations with local cannabis producing communities.
We are aware that there's some medicinal value in cannabis extracted oil, cannabinoid. Indeed, if such oil was cultivated, extracted, and exported in a controlled environment, it could be a veritable source of foreign exchange, which is much needed funds for execution of projects. With this in mind, the National Drug Enforcement Agency has commissioned the foremost scientific body in Nigeria, the Nigerian Academy of Science, to conduct a study on this.
The NDLEA chief highlighted the destructive impacts of drug abuse on families and communities, linking it to increased criminal activities like terrorism and kidnapping. He cited intelligence suggesting kidnappers operate from areas with cannabis cultivation. The governor of Ondo State, Lucky Aiyedatiwa, pledged his administration's support for the NDLEA's efforts, including their Alternative Development Program aimed at providing alternative livelihoods for farmers involved in illicit drug cultivation. He praised the NDLEA chief for leading the initiative personally.
You have not asked your secretary or the director of government to come to the state, but you have personally come in leading the team. It shows your level of commitment, dedication to this task of making our states, our country safe from illicit drug cultivation, production, commercialization, and even consumption. So I want to thank you for the work you have been doing as the leader of this agency. From time to time, we have seen chairman of NDLEA passing the baton from one leader to the other. And your own tenure has been one of the leadership has been very, very forthright, and now you have also conceived an idea, apart from enforcement, which has been the major tool that leaders have been using over the years. We have conceived another initiative of this Alternative Development Program other than enforcement.
The governor appreciated the NDLEA for choosing the state as the pilot for the Alternative Development Program, noting that Ondo State is the largest cannabis producer in Nigeria, but also a major producer of legitimate crops like cocoa due to its forest and fertile soil. Aiyedatiwa promised government support, citing past help with vehicles and logistics for enforcement.
We will not lose the sight of the fact that there are still some of our people who engaged strongly in cultivation of this illicit product, which we are trying to now discourage by providing alternative development program for them where they can grow other crops and they can still make new.
The governor welcomed the idea of setting up an alternative development unit in Ondo State, suggesting it could fall under his office in partnership with the Agriculture Ministry and advisors. He emphasized engaging communities, traditional leaders, churches, and mosques to drive behavioral change among those involved in illicit activities. Wahab Bankole, Osrc News.
On the national scene, President Bola Tinubu has arrived in Ankara, the capital of Turkey, on a state visit. He was received at Ankara airport by a Turkish government delegation led by the Minister of National Education, Yusuf Tekin, the chargé d'affaires at the Nigerian embassy in Turkey, as well as a handful of Nigerian ministers. President Tinubu's visit is aimed at strengthening the existing cordial relations between Nigeria and Turkey and exploring further areas of cooperation to advance a mutually beneficial partnership. During the visit, he will hold discussions with his Turkish counterpart, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. There is expected to be the signing of memorandum of understanding between the two countries, among other engagements. The Defense Headquarters says a special investigative panel is set up to investigate 16 officers of the armed forces indicted for acts of indiscipline and other breaches has concluded its investigations. Through the Director of Defense Information, Major General Samaila Uba, it added that the officers will face a military court-martial. Major General Uba said the investigation examined all circumstances surrounding the conduct of the affected personnel and identified a number of officers with cases to answer, including allegations bordering on plotting to overthrow the government. He said such actions were inconsistent with the ethics, values, and professional standards expected of members of the armed forces of Nigeria. Uba emphasized that the measures being taken were purely disciplinary and part of internal institutional mechanisms to preserve a discipline, cohesion, and operational effectiveness within the ranks. The Defense Headquarters in October 2025 announced the arrest of the officers, saying the investigations had now been completed in line with the established military procedures and extant regulations. The Nigerian Union of Local Government Employees, NULGE, FCT chapter, has directed its members to embark on an indefinite strike starting from today, January 27. The action is in solidarity with the ongoing industrial action by the Joint Union Action Committee of Federal Capital Territory Administration. According to the union, the move complies with calls from Nigeria Labour Congress and directives from NULGE's national body. The FCT chapter resolved to join the strike because the issues raised by JUAC, particularly unpaid entitlements and promotion arrears, directly affect area council staff across the territory. The union leadership urged members to remain resolute, emphasizing that they were left with no option but to resort to industrial action to protect the welfare of local government employees. And that's the news. Thank you for watching. Good morning.